Welcome back. Eminent Sports Broadcasting here to deliver another breakdown of a card that's coming up later today. I'm your host, Classic, here to chop it up with you about the Garry Russel Jr. versus Mark Magsayo fight. It's going to be on Showtime, 9 p.m. Triple header. Card sure to deliver. Very interesting bouts. Can't complain too much about this one, guys. Only problem is it's going up against the UFC. Now, I don't believe that there's a very huge crossover in terms of boxing fans picking and choosing or UFC fans picking and choosing in their respective sports. They're pretty diehard fans in both. But on a night like this where you have Ngannou versus Sirigan, it's going to be interesting. Looking around on the internet and not seeing too much buzz, to tell you the truth about this fight. And I'm a little shocked because it's a great card. But I'm going to cover it. I'm going to discuss it because it just makes sense. So let's see. Let's start with the beginning fight, which is going to be King Tug Nyambayar, which is the last fighter that Garry Russel fought. He has a record of 12-2 with 9 KOs, and he's fighting Sakaria Lukas, age 37, 25-1, 17 KOs. Late replacement. King Tug was originally supposed to fight Vic Pasilas. I think he's a fighter that fought Roy Salim, if I'm not mistaken, was his last fight. He was a southpaw, so that was going to bring a different dynamic to the fight. So I guess King Tug got a break, fighting an older fighter, but a much more experienced fighter. King Tug should walk out with this one. You're fighting a conventional fighter. You're originally going to fight a southpaw. Older fighter. Yes, more experienced, but you're a harder hitter. 9 KOs out of 12. Well, this guy has 17 KOs out of 25, but most of his fights were, I think, in Africa. The one time he came to the States, he lost. So, interesting bout. Looking at the press conference, King Tug was kind of jockeying again for a Garry Russel rematch. We don't want to see that. Go a different route. I think at this point in Garry's career, man, he has bigger fish to fry if he gets by Mark Magsayo, which is going to be a tough task. To be honest with you, the fight I'm most interested in is the Subriel Matias fight versus Petros Ananyan. This was a fight. This is a rematch. This is the first loss of Matias's career, the Puerto Rican, and I'm very high on Matias. Remember, Matias was the fighter that fought Maxim Dadashev, and that fight resulted in Dadashev losing his life after a brain bleed, I think, a couple days after the bout took place. Sad story, man. That's the sport of boxing, man. Dangerous sport, one of the most dangerous sports there is. That's why these fighters deserve every little bit that they get. I remember that night. Didn't see it live. I think it was on an ESPN Plus card. And kind Kind of tuned in a little bit late. And as soon as I tuned in, they were already talking about it, how he collapsed and was brought out. And then as we've been watching the news reports in the coming days, and then we find out that he loses his life. Tough, tough. So I made a mistake and said that every little bit that they get. I didn't mean it like that. They deserve as much as they can get. These fighters, man, because they risk their lives for our entertainment. And a lot of people take that shit for granted, and I'm not one of those guys. Subriel Matias, 17 fights, 17 KOs, one loss. Petros Ananyan, 16 fights with 7 KOs. Not really a big puncher, but he's volume. 2 defeats, 2 draws. I'm gonna go back to my scorecard that I actually watched that fight again earlier today, and it was a fight that was on the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury 2 undercard. This is when the televised broadcast began. Um, and it was a tough fight, a really really good fight, which Matias was dominating at the beginning of the fight. In my opinion, I think Matias would have knocked Ananyan out. It was Robert Byrd who continuously kept reminding him of low blows. That was borderline, hitting on the belt line. You know what I'm saying? He's a body puncher. He's punching on the arms, he's punching the head. He's swinging for the fences. He's trying to hurt his opponent. But a lot of the shots were hitting on the belt line. And Robert Byrd felt like he needed to keep on reminding him to keep the shots up, even though I felt like a lot of the shots were not low blows. So he kept breaking the action, and it kept taking. He was saving Ananyan, in my opinion, because the break in the action was Matias was losing his concentration, in my opinion. Then he started trying to concentrate more up top. But we all know, man, nobody likes those body shots. Nobody likes those body shots. He was going for the gusto. So I think Robert Byrd did him a huge disservice. And this was the second fight after the Dadashev tragedy. The fighter before he KO'd was able to stop, but it was a light touch because they wanted to see where his head was. In the aftermath of fighting someone and taking their life. Some fighters are never the same after that. Ray Boom Boom Mancini. He says it all the time. He talks about it all the time, how that shit fucks his head up. So, you know, it was a good fight. There was a knockdown in the seventh round. It was more of a fall back to the ropes. His back hit the ropes, and Robert Byrd called it a knockdown, gave him a standing 8, which I felt like was justified. But like I said, contributing factors. Second fight after a tragic loss in a fight where your hands, your determination, your will took a life in a dangerous sport. And Robert Byrd basically nullifying your progress in the fight. All the results that you were getting from body shots, head shots, mixing it up nice, punching in between shots. Yeah, he was getting caught. I think Matias's defense is a little questionable at times. He's open for a shot, but he's a volume puncher, man, and he can crack when he's hitting. Remember, at that time there was no the fans were not in the audience yet, so every time he was hitting Ananyan, you could hear that shit cracking, smacking on his head, and you could hear the difference in the punches thrown by Ananyan when he was hitting Matias. In that fight, I had it 94, 95. Ananyan, I had him ahead by 1 point. And justifiably, I think two of the judges on that panel, out of those three judges, had the same exact scorecard as I did. So it will suffice. It will suffice. So I'm cool with that scoring. Can't complain too much about that. Now let's talk about this main event. Mr. Garry Russell Jr., Magsayo. Magsayo is a Philippine fighter promoted by Manny Pacquiao. 26 years old, 23-0, 16 KOs. Garry Russell Jr., 31-1, 18 KOs. A masterful boxer, a ducked fighter. A lot of fighters are not running the fight. Mr. Garry Russell Jr. Got a lot of respect for Garry, man. It never ceases to amaze me the layers that this man has. Every interview I hear from him over the years, I'm just more intrigued by his soul, man, and what he brings to the table. He's good for boxing, man. The layoffs and the long stretches of inactivity is not good for boxing, but the fact that he wants to challenge a lot of these fighters that have no reason not to fight him. He's a champion. He's a world champion. A lot of these guys don't want to fight him because he brings a lot to the table. A lot of intelligence, a lot of speed, a lot of survival, a lot of will, a lot of know-how. It's going to be a good fight, man. Magsayo is there to be hit. Let's not get it twisted. His defense is a little shoddy, but he has power and he has speed. You know what I mean? He's Manny Pacquiao is his idol, so you know he's trying to emulate his idol. So he's gonna come in with reckless abandon and try to get Garry out of there. He's gonna give it all he's got because he's trying to become a world champion himself. He's trained by Freddie Roach, trainer that in tandem with Manny Pacquiao brought us boxing fans some of the greatest nights that we'll remember until the day that we die. Great combination of fighter and trainer. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this night of boxing. This is a can't miss for me. So my plan is for later on today is I'm gonna watch the card. I'm gonna score the fights, and I'm gonna go live after. So you guys watching this video and you guys want to hang out with your boy and start chatting away in the live chat, I'll be live. For how long, I'm not sure. I think once I talk a little bit, get my point across, and dissect the fight a little bit, and whatever gripes I may have, I express those. If the chat is live, you know what I mean? This is a new channel, so if the chat is live, I'll rock with you guys for a bit. So let's get pumped, guys. Let's get ready for this fight later on today. PBC, Showtime, 9 o'clock. Check the fights out. Come with your opinions. And I'll see you then. All right, y'all boys. We'll chop it up. Be good.